Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the second session of day 3 of the FDP. Sir, are you there? Sir has not joined. Let me just invite sir. Maybe sir is not there. Sir, are you there? Okay, sir. Good afternoon. Welcome back, sir, to the second session of third day of the FDP. Over to you, sir. Wait. I'm not able to see your name, so I'm not able to make you the presenter. Yeah, now I'm able to see. You can share your screens.
Okay, thank you. Just a second. I'm going to share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible. Just put it in
And
slideshow mode.
it is in slideshow mode, ma'am.
No, it is visible as slides.
Okay, just a second. First, I will put here in slideshow mode, and then I will select the screen. Now it is clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, so actually I have left two topics in yesterday's lecture. I have covered the decision tree part, all the concept of entropy and calculation of entropy, etc. And I have left two topics, random forest and classification. So we'll go through these topics first, and then I will discuss the association rule mining part. So a big part of machine learning is classification. We want to know what class an observation belongs to. The ability to precisely classify an observation is extremely valuable for various business applications, like predicting whether a particular user will buy a product or forecasting whether a given loan will default or not. So data science provides a plethora of classification algorithms such as logistic regression, support vector machine, naive-Bayes classifier. These all we have discussed earlier. Decision trees, but near the top of the classifier hierarchy is random forest classifier. There is also the random forest regression, but that is the topic for another time, another day. Here we will examine how the basic decision tree work, how individual decision tree are combined to make a random forest, and ultimately discover why random forests are so good at what they do. First, the decision trees. Let us quickly go over decision tree, uh, which we have discussed already, as they are building blocks of random forest model. Fortunately, there are pretty intuitive. Be willing to be bet that most people have used a decision tree knowingly or unknowingly at some point of their lives. Just a second. So simple decision tree example, it's like this. Uh, 1100000, and is it red? So red are 110 and blue are these. Then is it underlined? Yes, two are underlined and one is not underlined. So it's probably much easier to understand how a decision tree works through an example. Imagine that our data set consists of the numbers at top of the figure to the left. We have two ones and five zeros. One and zeros are our classes and desired to separate the classes using their features. The features are color, red and blue. You see here, there are two features, red and blue. So the features are color, red and blue, and whether the observation is underlined or not. So how can we do this? Color seems like a pretty obvious feature to split by, as all but one of the zeros are blue. So we can use the question is it red to split our first node. You can think of a node in a tree as the point where the path splits into two observations that meet the criteria. Then go down the yes branch and ones that don't go down to no branch. The no branch, that is blue, is all zeros now. So we are done there, but our yes branch can split B further. Now we can use the second feature and ask, is it underlined? So make a second split. So the two ones that are underlined go down, the yes sub branch, and the zeros that is not underlined goes down the right sub branch, and we are done. Our decision trees was able to use two features to split up the data perfectly. Obviously, in real life, our data will not be this clean, but the logic that decision tree employs remains the same at each node. It will ask, what feature will allow me to split the observations at hand in a way that the resulting groups are as different from each other as possible, and the members of each resulting subgroup are as similar to each other as possible. Now the random forest classifier, random forest like its name implies, consists of a large number of individual decision trees that operate as an ensemble. Each individual tree in the random forest splits out a class prediction and the class with the most votes become our model's prediction. Like this, predict 1, predict 0, predict 1, then so this is the tally of ones and three zeros in previous figure. The fundamental concept behind random forest is a simple but powerful one, the wisdom of crowds. In data science speak, the reason that random forest model works so well is a large number of relatively uncorrelated models. Uncorrelated means there is no dependence operating as a committee will outperform any of the individual constituents. The low correlation between models is the key, just like how investment with low correlations like stocks and bonds come together to form a portfolio that is greater than the sum of its parts. Uncorrelated models can produce inseparable predictions that are more accurate than any of the individual predictions. The reason for this wonderful effect is that the trees protect each other from their individual enemies. As long as they don't constantly all run in the same direction, while some trees may be wrong, many other trees will be right. So as a group, the trees are able to move in the correct direction. So the prerequisites for random forest to perform well are there needs to be some actual signal in our features so that model built using those features do better than random guessing. The predictions and therefore the errors made by the individual trees need to have low correlations with each other. Low correlations means low dependence. An example of why uncorrelated outcomes are so great, the wonderful effect of having many uncorrelated models is such a critical concept that I want to show you an example to help it really sink. Imagine that we are playing the following game. I use a uniformly distributed random number generator to produce a number. If the number I generate is greater than or equal to 40, you will win. So you have 60% chance of victory. And I pay you some money. If it is below 40, I win and you pay me some amount. Now I offer you the following choices. We can either game 1, play 100 times, betting $1 each time. Game 2, play 10 times, betting $10 each time. And game 3, play 1 time, betting dollar or rupees 100. Which would you pick? The expected value of each game. Expected value means multiplied by the probability and sum. Expected value of game 1 will be 0.60 into 1. This is the probability of success 1 and 0.40 multiplied by 1. So it will be 20. Then expected value of game 2 will be 0.60 into 1 and 0.40 into 10. So it will also be 20 and expected value of game 3 will be 0.60 into 100 and 0.40 into 100. It is also 20. So outcome distribution of 10,000 simulation of each game. It is like this: money won by you. What about the distributions? Let's visualize the result with a Monte Carlo simulation. We will run 10,000 simulations for each game type. For example, we will simulate 10,000 times the 100 plays of game 1. Then take a look on the chart on the left. Now, which game would you pick? Even though the expected values are the same, the outcome distributions are vastly different from positive and narrow blue to binary pink. So this is the outcome for this pink, this blue, and vast red. Probability of making money for each game. If you play 100 times, this is the probability. If you play 10 times, this is the probability. And if you play one time, this is the probability. So even though the games share the same expected value, their outcome distributions are completely different. The more we split up our $100 bet into different plays, the more confident we can be that we will make money. As mentioned, random forest is the same. Each tree is like one play in our game earlier. We just saw how our chances of making money increased. The more times we play, similarly with a random forest model, our chances of making correct predictions increases with the number of uncorrelated trees in the model. Uncorrelated, those are not dependent on each other, ensuring that model diversify each other. So how does random forest ensures that the behavior of each individual tree is not correlated with the behavior of any other tree in the model? It uses the following two methods. What are these methods? First method is bagging or bootstrap aggregation. Actually, bootstrapping is it's a statistical concept which is used for this bagging process. Decision trees are very sensitive to the data. They are trained. Small changes to the training set can result significantly different tree structure. Random forests take advantage of this by allowing each individual tree to randomly sample from the dataset with replacement resulting in different trees. This process is known as bagging. Notice that with bagging, we are not subsetting the training data into a smaller chunk and training each trees on a different chunk. Rather, if we have sample of size capital N, we are still feeding each tree a training set of size capital N unless specified otherwise. But instead of original training data, we take a random sample of size capital N with replacement. For example, if our data set was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then we might give one of our trees following 1, 2, 2, 3, 6, 6 like this randomly. So without with replacement, because we have taken, so note splitting in a random forest model is based on random subset of features for each tree, like decision tree, feature 1, 2, 3, 4, left node, right node. It is the decision tree concept. In random forest, we will take feature 2 and 3 combinedly randomly, and feature 1 and 3 left node, right node, and they will work independently. In normal decision tree, when it is time to split a node, we consider every possible feature and pick the one that produces the most separation between the observations in the left node versus those in the right node. And in contrast, each tree in a random forest can pick only from a random subset of features. This forces even more variation amongst the trees in the model and ultimately results in a lower correlation across the trees and more diversification. This is the requirement, lower correlation or no correlation. So in our random forest, we end up with trees that are not only trained on different sets data, but also use different features to make decisions, and that creates uncorrelated trees that buffer and protect each other from errors. So conclusion is that random forests are favorite because of coming from the world of finance and investments. The holy grail was always to build a bunch of uncorrelated models, each with positive expected return, and then put them together in a portfolio to earn massive alpha equal to market beating returns. Much easier said than done. Random forest is The data science equivalent of that, the random forest is a classification algorithm consisting of many decision trees. It uses bagging and feature randomness when building each individual tree to try to create an uncorrelated forest of trees. Those predictions by committee is more accurate than that of individual. Some
Sir,
noise
do you
is coming
ask
continuously.
Panda sir, do you want to ask something? I can see your camera on and your mic is also on. Is there some problem? Do you want to ask something? Maybe someone has erroneously opened. So you can continue. Sorry for that, sir.
Okay. So this was all about, am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Actually, something wrong with my system also. So this was all about random forest, which I have left in last lecture. Just a second. I'm switching my slide. Just a second, I have to receive it. My slide is visible
Yes, sir.
and it is in slideshow mode.
No.
Oh, what's happening here?
You can resume the slideshow.
Now?
No.
Now?
Yes.
Now it is in slideshow mode?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So it's today's topic, introduction to association rule mining. So this presentation will cover introduction to association rule mining, then association rules versus classification rules, some basic definitions, generation of association rules, and evaluation of association rule set. So word association is very common in our every sphere of life. The literal meaning of association is a spatial or temporal relation between things, attributes, occurrences, etc. In fact, the word relation is synonymous to the word association. To understand the concept of association, let us look in this figure. Here we see four things, namely boy, girl, chocolate, cigarette. Several associations from one or more elements to others can be interpreted. For example, girl likes chocolate. So interpreting girl prefers chocolate, or boy, comma girl shops cigarette chocolate. So this interpret in college canteen there is a large sales of cigarette and chocolate. So if there are both boys and girls students, etc. This is an example showing only few simple things are associated through simple relations. Now let us turn our focus on relatively large collection of things as shown here. uh, Computer, then there are two classes, hardware and software, cloud, smartphone. Then hardware is further classified as storage further classified as CD, hard disk, RAM, flash memory. Then peripherals are there. Peripherals are scanner, printer. Scanner, it's RAM and hard disk mainly. Then printer, system, software. Then peripheral touch screen is also there. Then peripheral is projector is also there. Software, application softwares, tools, etc. So association among moderately large collection of things. This shows. Then medicines, disease, symptoms, complex association amongst disease, symptoms and medicines. So considering only computer and only few elements thereafter, we see how elaborate associationships exist among them. The things even compounded if we consider smartphone, cloud into them. If this is not large enough, then consider the scenario of our health world, where three main things, namely disease, symptoms, and medicines, are involved. Indeed, there are a large and very complex associations amongst different constituents in these three things. Maybe that a medicine specialist can find them. Now we can formally define the term association, which is as follows. Association, an association indicates a logical dependency between various things. These are three examples pointed out here, and list of such examples is in fact enormous. One thing is evident from these examples that finding association is not so trivial, even if entities are simple or complex in terms of their types or numbers. It therefore raises an issue that, given a set of things, how to discover association among them. We may note that if SA and SC are any two sets of elements and SA and SC denotes association between SA and SC, then finding all is hard problem, because mod of SA is greater than or equal to 1, mod of SC is greater than or equal to 1, and the number of S increases exponentially as mod of this increases. This is one of the fundamental problem of data mining and called association rule mining, ARM. We can define the association rules mining problem as follows. Association rule mining is to derive all logical dependencies among different attributes given a set of entities. So association rule mining problem was first fundamental by Agrawal and These were the authors. And it is also referred as the market basket analysis MBA problem. So market basket analysis, the concept of MBA, it is not that MBA, Master of Business Administration, it is market basket analysis, stem out from the analysis of supermarket. Here, given a set of transactions of items, the task is to find a relationship between the presence of various items. In other words, the problem is to analyze customers' buying habits by finding associations between the different items that customers place in their shopping baskets. Uh, you often see when you go to a supermarket or like Big Bazaar or so a certain type of things or goods are packed with some things, or you see when you go to purchase milk in the morning, often you take butter with milk, bread, eggs. So this is association. When the shopkeeper or the supermarket owner observes these things, they pack the things in one basket, and this is what association. It is called market because normally they make a basket of things which are sold together. So it is called market basket. The discovery of such association rules can help the supermarket owner to develop marketing strategies by gaining insight into matters like which items are most frequently purchased. Like I have discussed in the morning, when you purchase milk, take milk from the shopkeeper, you take butter, you take bread, you take biscuits, eggs, etc. So these are the items which are frequently purchased by you. So there is an association with the business of these things. It also helps in inventory management, sale promotion strategies, and supply chain management. For example, we take this, uh, suppose a set of customer purchase data are collected from a grocery store. It shows a small sample from this data. The store owner is interested to learn about the purchasing behavior of their customers. That is, which items are occurring more frequent. For example, following two or more frequent: bread and milk, diaper and beer. Sample data is there. First transaction is bread, milk, diaper and cola. Then second is bread, diaper, beer and egg. Then milk, diaper, beer and cola. So these are the transactions different. These are 6 customers who purchased these items. So we can say that two rules: bread, when bread is purchased, you see, whenever bread is purchased, bread with milk, bread and milk, bread and milk. So we can say that two rules, bread, milk and beer, diaper, or more precisely two associations rules suggesting a strong relationship between sales of bread and milk and beer and diaper exist. This means customer who purchases bread or beer likely to purchase milk or diaper. So the process of analyzing customers' buying habits by finding association between different items can be extended to many application domains like medical diagnosis, web mining, text mining, bioinformatics, scientific data analysis, insurance, etc. In general, an association rule can be expressed as S of certain L to S of R, where SL and SR denotes the set of items, non-empty. However, there is no universally accepted notations for expression of association rules, and we may merely follow the popular convention. Further note that in our convention, an arrow is used to specify whether the relation is bidirectional. Sometimes the relationship may be unidirectional or both equivalent. Now, association rules versus classification. Classification rule of the form X to Y and uh, association rule of the same form X into Y looks alike, but they have different implications. First, classification rules are concerned with predicting an entity to which it belongs. So the right-hand part of the rule is always a single attribute called class level, whereas X into Y representing an association rule Y may be consisting one or more elements. Both the rules imply logical dependence of Y on X. In case of classification rule, X is a conjunction of attributes and relations with their values. In other words, left-hand part in classification rule potentially include test on the value of any attribute or combination of attributes. X or Y is in association rule includes a set of values rather than tests. Classification rule, if X then Y is either fires, that is satisfies or not, whereas in case of association rule X to Y, it is matter of degree of strength how X is related to Y. In the case of classification rules, we are generally interested in the quality of rule set as a whole. It is all the rules working in combination that determine the effectiveness of a classifier, not any individual rule or rules. In the case of association rules, the emphasis is on the quality of each individual rule instead of whole set of rules. Here are some basic uh, definitions and terminologies. Before going to discuss our actual topic, first we should go through some definitions and terminologies which will be frequently referred. We define each term followed by relevant examples to understand the term better. Following notations will be frequently referred in our definitions, like capital D is the database of transactions, small ti transactions, ith transaction in database D. X and Y are the item sets. X into Y is association rule. Small s will be referred as uh, small s, this is support. Alpha, this is confidence. Then capital I, this is set of item sets. Small I is large item sets. Then C, the set of candidate item sets. Now, suppose capital D is a database comprising of small n transactions, that is D equal to T1, T2, Tn, these are the transactions. T1 is for first customer, T2 for second customer, and so on, where each transaction denotes a record. For example, in the context of market basket analysis, it is a set of items shopped. Capital I denotes the set of all possible items. For example, This is the set of all item set ABC, ABCDE, and so on. These are the item sets purchased. Capital I, ABCD comprising of set of all. Any one transaction, say ABC, is an item set. This one is item set. ABC, CBA are the same item sets. For convenience, all items in an item set are presented in order, that is alphabetical order. An item set is an null set. Thus, the maximum number of transactions that is possible with m items in I will be 2 raised power m minus 1. It is all subsets from. Now, what is association rule? Given a set of items, capital I, suppose the members of this I1, I2, IM, and database of transaction D. D is what? The set of transactions T1, T2, and Tn, where Ti is I11, I12, I1k, Iij. This belongs to I, set of item sets. An association rule is an implication of the form X to Y, where X and Y both belongs to I, are item sets, and the intersection of X and Y is phi, that is null set. Now X and Y are disjoint. Cardinality of X and Y, that is X union Y, should be at least 2. Usually a rule is stated Ri into X and Y. Here X is called body and Y is called head. Also X and Y is called antecedent and consequent. In order to improve the interpretability, there are many options. Parameters are included like support and confidence, start time, end time, validity period, etc. We shall discuss later. The head part is usually a single attribute. If there are more than one attribute in head, then it can be splitted into further association rules like this. What happened? Now, support count and support count and support a transaction. A transaction Ti is said to contain an item set X. If X is a subset of Ti, support count refers to the number of transactions that contain a particular item set. So mathematically, the support count of an item set X is denoted by sigma X and defined by the equation sigma X equal to Ti, where X belongs to Ti and Ti belongs to D. The symbol mod of X denotes the number of elements in X, how many elements are in X. For example, with the support count of the set CD is sigma CD equal to 5. Support is the ratio or percentage of the number of items satisfying both body and head to the total number of transactions, like support of Ri equal to sigma of xy divided by d. It is defined as. So support of CD, sorry, to E, it will be 3 by 8. It will be 0.375. Then support of ABC to DE, it will be 1 by 8. It will be 0.125. So support of x to y can be taken as the probability of x union y. Support of x into y is equivalent to probability of x union y. Further note that the notation x union y indicates the probability that transaction contains the union of itself x and y. This should not be confused with probability x or y, which indicates that the probability transaction contains either x or y. Support implies a measurement of strength, or a rule, that is S of Ri equal to 0 implies no match, where S of Ri implies all matches. In other words, a rule that has very low support may occur simply by chance, and hence association rule is significantly, whereas rule with high value of S is significant. Now, what is confidence? Confidence of a rule Ri in database D is represented by alpha Ri and is defined as the ratio or percentage of the transactions in D containing X that also containing Y. The support count of X is given by this alpha X into Y. It will be sigma of X union Y upon sigma of X. Now confidence rule also can be expressed as follows. Alpha of X to Y, it will be, can be written like this. Sigma of X union Y divided, it is actually the probability divided by magnitude of D, then sigma X, it is also divided by, so it will be cancelled out. So this formula will come. So it is equal to probability of X union Y divided by, or probability X given Y. So alternatively, confidence of a rule X to Y is the conditional probability that Y occurs given that X occurs. Confidence also probability of X union Y and probability of X, called the frequencies of occurrences of item sets XY and X, right? XY means X union Y. Now confidence measures the reliability of the inference made by a rule. For a given rule X into Y, the higher the confidence, the more likely it is for Y to be present in the transaction that contains X. Support X is also called relative support, and confidence alpha is called absolute support or reliability. Now completeness, another measure of a rule strength is called completeness. It is the ratio of matching right hand side head or that correctly match with the rule. Thus, for any rule Rx to Y, the completeness C is defined as C of R is X into Y divided by sigma Y. For example, rule CD into E, we have CD into E is 3 and sigma E is 4. So the completeness CR will be given by 3 by 4, that is 0.75. Now, minimum support and minimum confidence. It is customary to reject any rule for which the support is below a minimum threshold mu. This minimum threshold or support is called minimum support or min sup and denoted by mu. Typically, the value of mu is 0.01, that is 1%. Also, if the confidence of a rule is below a minimum threshold tau, it is customary to reject the rule. This minimum threshold of confidence is called minimum confidence and it is denoted by tau. Typically, the value of tau is 0.8, that is 80%. For example, for a database of 2500 transactions for 5 association rules chosen at random, we have to decide whether it will be rejected or accepted. So for database of 2500 transactions for 5 association rules chosen at random, decide the rules which are rejectable. So this is the characteristics of few transaction rules. Now, frequent item sets. Let mu be the user specified minimum support means an item set I in D set to be frequent item set in D with respect to mu if Si will be greater than or equal to mu. For example, an item set with k elements in it is called k item set. Decide whether two item sets A in E in the table is a frequent item set with respect to mu is equal to 0.1. Here it is 1 by 8, that is 0.125. Hence, AE is a frequent item set in that data set. A frequent k item set is also called large item set and denoted by LK. So these are further more definitions, examples. Most of things are mathematical one, upward closed, downward closed. So these are mathematical explanations. Activity indicators to improve the reliability. To improve the readability and comprehensiveness, many forms are followed. This is starting with input data set to maintaining the association rule. Few such practices are stated, like records of a patient. So symptoms are cold, throat, pain, cold, fever and headache, cold, dizziness and fever, pneumonia, cold, dizziness and diarrhea, pneumonia. So this can be represented in a binary representation. It is customary to represent a data set in a binary form shown in this table. Patient 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then cold if he or she having, it is denoted by 1, not having diarrhea, not having dizziness, cold with fever, headache 0, pneumonia 0, and throat pain. So like these are denoted. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First patient having cold, fever and throat pain. So it is throat pain, fever and cold. So those attributes which are present are denoted by 1 and not present. So in binary notations it is 1, 0. So it is represented like this. Binary representation of data. In binary representation, each row corresponds to a transaction, that is record, and each column corresponds to an item. Item can be arranged treated as a binary variable. Those values in 1 if the item is present in the transaction and 0 otherwise. So items are presented in an order such as alphabetical order by their names, and this simplistic representation provides many operations to be performed. This is called co-occurrence matrix. So another matrix representation showing occurrence of each item with respect to all others is called co-occurrence matrix. For example, the co-occurrence matrix for the data in table 5 is shown in here. So co-occurrence of cold is 3 times, diarrhea is 1 times, dizziness is 2 times, fever is 3 times, headache in 1 time, pneumonia in 2 times, and so on. So now association rule mining problem can be classified into following different criteria: mining based on completeness of item sets, mining based on level of abstraction in the rule set, mining based on dimensionality in rules, category of data, types of item sets, mining based on types of rules. So completeness criteria, according to this criteria, we are to mine a set of item sets called complete, closed or maximal frequent item sets, satisfying some threshold value such as minimum support, minimum confidence, etc. Such a rule mining is called complete association rule mining. Then level of abstraction criteria. Sometimes we need to mine association rules at different levels of abstraction. For example, the rule computer windows, it implies HP printer. Then laptop Linux, HP printer, this is rule B here. Assuming computer is a higher level of abstraction or of laptop, the rule is differently than rule B, such as rule mining is called multi-level association rule mining. Then dimensionality criteria is there, data criteria, category criteria is there, type of pattern criteria is there, type of rule criteria is there, problems specification and solution strategies generating frequent item sets that satisfy the minimum threshold, then generating association rule that is having frequent item sets. We are those satisfying the constraints minimal confidence, that is minimum confidence. So this is the naive approach to frequent item set generation, C1, C2, CI, CP item sets, and the transactions are T1, T2, TJ, and TN database transactions. Now the algorithm which is used, a priori algorithm to frequent item set generation, a priori algorithm is known to be a breakthrough algorithm to solve the problem of generating frequent item sets in a realistic time. This algorithm was proposed by R. Agrawal and R. Srikanth in 1994. This algorithm is called a priori because it uses prior knowledge of frequent item set property. The algorithm is also called level-wise search algorithm because it follows a top-down search moving downward level-wise in item sets lattice. So to improve the efficiency of level-wise generation of frequent item sets, to reduce the search space, it relies on an important property of frequent item sets is called a priori property, which is stated as if an item set is frequent, then all of its subset must also be frequent. So this property is also called downward closed property of item sets. To illustrate the a priori property, let us consider the item set lattice shown in the previous table. This can be represented like this a priori property. different rules. This I'm taking a 5 minutes break. a priori algorithm to frequent item set generation. So this is how we do. Uh, D is the data set T1 having transactions T1, T2 up to Tn, a set data set of n transactions. Then capital I is the set of items I1, I2 up to Im, set of items in data set D. S, small s is the minimum support level, that is threshold. It is denoted by mu. Alpha, minimum confidence threshold, and output L, which will be all frequent item sets. This is how this algorithm work. First we initialize C1 equal to all the one item sets from D, K equal to 1, then scan the data set D. So this is means mathematical part algorithm. This is how it works. Procedure proved. Then this is how we can represent these transactions in binary notations. Support counts for some item sets. This is how it is counted. It is a simple calculation. You can do it very easily yourself. This is at different levels. Now, analysis of a priori algorithm. A priori algorithm is a significant step forward, and it is quite comparable to its naive approach counterpart. The effectiveness of a priori algorithm can be compared by the number of candidate item sets generated throughout the process, as the total time is influenced by the total number of candidate item sets generated. Let us do the calculation with reference to the above example. For the data set, frequent item sets are up to maximum 3. Hence, using naive approach, the total number of candidate item sets would be 9. It's 9C1, then 9C2, 9C3. It will be 9C1 will be 9, 9C2 will be 36, and 9C3 will be 84. So total 129. On the contrary, a priori algorithm, we have to generate candidate item sets at 3 different levels of searching. So total number will be 9 plus 20 plus 3, that will be 32. Note that in real life applications, number of items is very large, and a priori algorithm shows even better performance with very large number item sets. An exact mathematical analysis on time and storage complexity of uh, exact mathematical analysis of time and storage complexity of a priori algorithm is not possible. This is because it depends on many factors in addition to pattern of occurrences of items in transactions. The deciding factors are number of transactions in input data set, the average transactions width, that is W, the threshold value, minimum support S, the number of items, dimensionality. Scope of improving a priori algorithm. Since Agrawal and Shrikant's paper was published, a great deal of research work has been devoted in this field, then generating association rule.
अच्छा एक मिनट देखती हूँ। हेलो हाँ सर यू आर देयर.
Hello.
Yes sir. Sir
Yes,
you
sir.
are
Sir,
audible.
you are. My meeting was left, unfortunately. I'm on. Is not connecting on my laptop actually.
Teams is not
Teams is
connected.
not connecting. Teams is not connecting on laptop. I'm trying.
Okay.
I think I should leave from this mobile and then I try to connect.
Can try. Yes sir, you are back. Not audible. Your speaker is mute. Your speaker is mute. Yes.
Now audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I think it's already 1 o'clock. So, ma'am, can you discuss those examples of association rule mining with these participants, as I don't have R right now with me?
Let me first.
Anuradha, ma'am?
Yes,
Anuradha, ma'am?
yes. Sir, I'm there. There is some technical issue at sir's end, I think. First of all, let me share the file which is having complete means in the morning I had shared one file which was having only K means. Now I'm giving you the association rules also. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, audible. So I'm sharing the R screen. I have shared the file in your WhatsApp group. And as soon as sir joins back, I will, sir, there was one doubt with one participant. Let me first ask that. I have already forwarded you the doubt. What is the difference
See,
between
my
association? Huh?
something is something is wrong with my laptop. It is continuously disconnecting. I have joined with.
Okay, कोई बात नहीं sir. I am managing. You have forwarded me the file. There is one doubt with one participant, Gomti ma'am. She's asking what is the difference between association rule mining, deep learning, reinforcement learning in COVID prediction analysis. How the results will be?
Ma'am, this will be means person specific research problem, and I haven't been very honest. I haven't gone through with this type of problem tackle, so I can't help to explain this how it will work and what will be the differences. To be very honest, right?
Ma'am, let me give you the answer for this. If you are talking about COVID prediction analysis, someone else is unmute, I think. If you're talking about COVID prediction analysis and you want to include or you want to study about the patterns of the COVID cases, and then you want to do the prediction. So association rule can only help if you are trying to see the combination of things like someone is having flu, someone is having fever, someone is having, so what is the possibility of this person being suffering from COVID? So in such cases, according to your problem statement, you will apply various machine learning algorithms. You can say that decision tree is giving a better example, or you can say that misprecised precise result, or you can say that association rule is giving a precise example result. So it is according to your problem and according to your case, on which specific case you are working. So according to that, you will have to apply these type of algorithms. And reinforcement learning is just the combination of algorithms, means so you have to means take your own case, and various algorithms have been explained to you, and even in the third lecture it will be explained more. So you can apply your own algorithm according to the case. Now I'm sharing the R screen. This is the R screen, and if you see at the practicals, I have fifth practical is on the a priori algorithm. So your question data is this. I am putting in the chat box also, but it is there in your WhatsApp group. Okay, this is your question data, and you want to use the a priori algorithm for this. This is the question data. So I am writing my data, read transactions. Data1.txt file we will have to create first. Okay, so this file you can create in Excel. Okay, so and then that file can be noted as, can be named as data1. So we will fetch from there. You will have to call that CSV file, and then you can load the data in your R. Then you have my data. Yeah, so this is the file. First you have to create, since this is your sample data, this one question data, so you will have to create this, read the data file, and be saved in the working directory. So first you have to means create this data file in Excel, and then you will have to save it in your working directory, and then you will have to run this this algorithm, this statement, this command. So your file will be data1.txt. And then after that, when you will read my data, it will show you this data. Okay, then you can use the inspect my data. Then after the inspect my data, you can apply the rules. And this is the syntax for using the a priori. My data, comma parameter equals to list, support 0.6 and confidence is 0.8. And when you will run this a priori, you will get this. Okay, since I have not created the data, sir has just sent me this file, so I have not created the data. Otherwise, we can create this file in the Excel and then we can call it after saving it in your working directory. Okay. And we have another example. Let me see if, yeah, every example is having data set. So I will have to create the data set. So this you can try on your own. You can means create the file and then you can create the data set and then call that in your R console, and then you can run the a priori algorithm. Okay. Even you can download some data set based on COVID cases that ma'am has given an example. You can download the data set taking COVID cases and run the a priori algorithm from that. You will get the data set at kaggle.com. It is a very good data source. Kaggle.com is having vast data, which we often use for analysis, etc. So, am I audible? There is some problem at SIR's and I think not audible. Your voice is, yes, it is coming now.
Hello.
You are audible.
Okay. So can we conclude?
I think we can, and we'll meet by 2:30.
240.
2:40. There is some technical problem at your end. You will have to check your laptop as well. Okay.
Because it is not connecting to net right now. So I will check it and
Okay,
we'll
so we
meet
will
at
meet 2:40.
240 sharp. 240.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.